Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Welcome to another fantastic episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we are thrilled to have a master of words, a titan in the world of digital marketing, and a visionary business consultant. Our guest today is someone whose pen has propelled businesses into success with a knack for crafting compelling narratives that have generated over $1 billion. Yes, that's with a B, ladies and gentlemen, in sales for his clients. With over 15 years of experience, he's not only just penned copy, but has penned success stories across more than 420 markets and industries. From running a staggering 17,000 plus marketing campaigns to revolutionizing businesses with his sharp insight and strategic prowess. His work is a testament to the power of effective communication and the right marketing strategies. He is a pioneer in the art of storytelling, where he skillfully blends classic direct response techniques with story-based copy to captivate and engage audiences like never before. His methods are not just about selling products, but about telling tales that resonate and create lasting impacts. Having received accolades and testimonials from some of the biggest names in marketing and business growth, such as Jay Abraham and John Benson, our guest today is a trusted advisor and sought-after mentor in the copywriting and marketing arena. Beyond his consulting and copywriting feats, he is dedicated to empowering businesses and entrepreneurs through his training courses and insightful content available at greatestcopywriteralive.com. And keep your ears open for his upcoming venture, which promises to be just as groundbreaking as his career, the greatest business podcast ever. So please welcome me in joining the phenomenal and prolific and master of words himself, Adil. Adil, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, man. That was an incredible intro. I think I'm just going to steal that for all my intros from now on. It's like,
you are welcome
just
to
like,
it.
Phil, do a Phil. You're fine.
That's my job. Like, as I've said countless times on the episode, I grew up in the 90s. I love the hype man of the rappers, and I view myself as the hype man of my guest. So I have to be up there, give the guests all this great. When they come out, they destroy the audience. And I know you're going to do the exact same. He's taking off his coat. Ladies and gentlemen, he's taking off
the coat. Is off. The coat
he is
off.
ready. So Adil, quickly just introduce yourself. Let the world know about you, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Cool. Sorry about this really wandering light thing right now. I'm just trying to make sure that my light setup is correct because, I wanted to make sure you guys can see me at least. Because right now I look really dark right now. So
yeah, you got a nice tan on. You got a very, very good tan.
Slightly orange. There we go. Hello. Hi. So, as Phil has basically said, I have been a copywriter for most of my life. Actually, 2/3 of my life have been involved in the digital marketing space or the advertising space in some way, shape, or form. I've been online since 2007, like as in a digital marketer since then. I have literally worked with some of your favorite entrepreneurs. In fact, I've taught some of your favorite entrepreneurs at some point or another, which is really cool. And yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell. I don't do a very good job of hyping myself up because anything I say on top of this is just like, he's already kind of said all the stuff that I do. Basically, put it this way. Well, put it this way. The stuff that I'm really good at is I can very quickly figure out exactly what people need to know, see, hear, understand, and need to know before they can make a decision, whether that's buying something, whether that's going on holiday, whether that's doing literally any aspect of their life. It's all psychology. I just happen to be very, 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 very good at it. So we're going to have a lot of fun today.
I am excited for this episode. Adil, why did you decide to go back in, like you said, 2007, correct? Yeah, it's about 15 years. Why did you decide to become an entrepreneur? Like, what made you decide, hey, screw the 9-to-5, I'm going to go make $1 billion for people?
Ooh, okay. So my story is kind of fun because so if we go from the time I was 17, which is really when this thing kicked off. So before that, I was working for my dad, small little bits and pieces where you didn't think much of it. Had a job by the time I was 16. Worked in a games company when I was 17 because my original career plan was to go into Thai boxing. I actually wanted to be a professional Thai boxer. That was my actual original plan. That didn't work out, unfortunately, and fortunately in some senses. So, with a back injury and a few other things as well at the same time, I started a network marketing company with a friend of mine who was also an instructor of mine at the time. From that network marketing company, because I didn't really like the whole being told what to do. I just don't do very well with authority, as you can imagine. What gave that away? I have no idea. So essentially, I just basically moved on from there to uh, doing network marketing for a self-development company, which is no longer around. And then I ended up leaving that company because there was a bit of a fallout. Went into the digital marketing space because this self-development MLM company was actually promoting digital marketing, internet marketing at the time. So I was like, okay, cool, let's go see what this is. Through that, I ended up being introduced to a guy called Frank Kern through his Mass Control 2.0 launch. Easily, in my opinion, the greatest video sales letter of all time. Just saying. From that to finding John Carlton, to John Carlton introducing me to copywriting to basically saying, screw it, there's a better life I can have. Because copywriting wasn't really like the main skill I wanted to specialize in. It was like, oh, I see this is really interesting, but it'll allow me to sell more stuff because I always wanted to be an affiliate marketer. But then affiliate marketing became too much of a gray, black-hatted area where you're scamming people. Like in some senses, not all affiliate marketers, but this time it was that. And I was like, I'm not okay with this. Ethics kicked in. So I was like, what can I do? How can I be ethical? What can I say and be? And I just went down this pathway of helping ethical businesses that I always looked for and said, well, I have the skill. I might as well use it to the highest degree. And just kind of fell in love with copywriting ever since then. And I guess the reason I can never go back to a 9 to 5 is I prefer my weekdays. I prefer not having to work too much. I actually take more time off than most people. I also work harder than most people. I'll put that out there. If we're going to go, who's going 14 hours a day? I'll happily do a 14-hour day with very little complaints. But if we're going with who's going to take the next 4 days off to chill out and play video games all day, it's also going to be me.
It's the life of an entrepreneur. You do the hours you want, you put in the amount of work you need. As long as the work gets done, you can play hard and work hard. That's the job.
Oh, 100%. And this concept a friend of mine really was talking about, and he's a fellow podcaster as well. One of the things that we said to each other was like knowing when is enough, like knowing when the number is big enough. Because when I was coming up, $1 million days were actually very commonplace in the marketing space. Now they're not so much anymore, but they were back then. And now it's just kind of like looking at it's like, what number do you really need to be happy? And then when you realize what that number is, your life changes.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Once you know, like, oh, it's not $1 million. It's not $1 million.
No, it's not $1 million a month. That's not going to make me happy. No, it's only like, it's way less than that. And you're like, this is really attainable. And it is attainable because once you find happiness, and this is the weird secret that I've found from so many entrepreneurs and friends that I know over the decades, the moment you figure out how to be happy and make that money with as little work as possible, guess what? You make more money. It's like the biggest ironies. I don't need more, but now I just have an insane amount of extra funds. This is nice.
My bank account just keeps growing. I don't know why, but it just keeps growing. It's okay.
It's okay.
I need a fraction of that.
I'll carry this cross. It's fine.
It's a hard cross to bear.
Yeah.
You got it. When you were discovering all these amazing copywriters and marketers, did your mind shift? Like, did you have kind of like a this is the world? Like, oh my God! Now you started seeing like all the sales techniques everywhere, and then you just got destructed. Like you just felt distraught because everything's sales.
No. See, it's funny we actually had this conversation right before we had this call. I had a call with a different friend of mine, and I actually said to him that I've never been disillusioned. I've been always disillusioned by the media. Like always have been disillusioned by the media, and it wasn't to the highest level I saw it until after like I got into the world of. But actually, permission to be a little political on this one because this is how it actually came about. You cool with this?
Yeah. Sweet. If anything, I can edit it out. We're good.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, cool. So I was going to say, so basically post 9/11, everything was like, Muslims are bad. Muslims believe in this. Muslims believe in that. And I'm like, dude, I'm Muslim. I don't believe in that. That's bullshit. Like, that's complete BS. I can prove to you I'm 11 and I can prove that's BS. Like, where's your fact checkers at? Make me a fact check. I'll check all your facts and make sure they're correct. Like, I was that determined with it. that I was never disillusioned with it. I was never under the illusion of it for too long. So 11 years of being under the illusion, and realistically, most of those times I wasn't really watching news. I was more or less trying to just watch cartoons. And then after you get into the copywriting world, as John Carlton said, I'm going to ruin every good book and TV show and movie for you, because now whatever you're going to see selling and the principle behind every single thing. And the reality is, once I figured that part out, I started modeling a lot of what I was doing for copywriting based on what I knew was successful in the modern world, which is I look at TV, I look at shows, I look at books, I look at all those things that make us want to buy and make us want to spend our money, want to invest our emotional energy to what we get hyped about and what we get sad about. And I go, what story are they telling and how are they telling it? What are the factors that go into this? And again, I'm a 90s kid. So like I grew up watching the WCW, WWF Nitro. Well, Nitro versus Raw was like the thing. The 90s TV Raw. You want to go study some good storytelling? Go watch the Attitude Era versus the WCW NWO era. You will be behind some of the most insane script writing ever for like 3 years.
And something, yeah, I have to admit, as a child in the 90s and a product of the Attitude Era, there were some insane stories in that period.
And they made us believe, though.
Oh yeah,
that was
like the Undertaker.
Like,
the Undertaker being a guy coming from the dead, having us believe that.
He burned his brother alive when he was. It was like, how is he not in jail? Like, what? Just like as an adult, you're like, you'd be arrested for all of this. Why are you admitting your crimes? Stop doing that. Shut up. Get in the tanny. It's like, but in the night, like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's like, have you not watched any CSI, any Law and Order?
Like, even watch The Casual Criminalist, for the love of it. Shout out to The Casual Criminalist. Like, just have like a whole list of like the things to not do. Number 1, don't write down your crimes. Number 2, don't talk about them, and definitely not on TV.
Not on a nationally broadcasted huge I never understood that.
But you know what though, it was so well done. And even looking, like, I've looked back at it multiple times and I'm like, how the storytelling is so good. Like, they do the good versus bad guy so well.
Yeah, and I think what also helps sell it is the physicality, because they bring in it into the match. So you're like, oh, okay. My problem is like some of the moves, the guys just bent over in the middle of the ring, and you're like, I would have moved.
Yeah,
I would have moved.
It's like, what is this? Why is he waiting like a whole 30 seconds to get dropped?
Yeah, it's like, but then like, it's fine. You leave it go, because you're like, hey, they just announced they killed a person on TV, and no one seems to be bothered by it. So I'm okay with the 30 seconds staying still. With copywriting, because copywriting is very interesting, because it's something that's overlooked, I think, by a lot of people. A lot of businesses overlook it. If you could give one piece of advice, just a starting point for businesses that aren't looking at copywriting as the powerhouse that it is, because it's what sells.
Okay. Can I give 3 pieces of advice?
If you want to give 3 pieces of advice, go ahead. And
3's a lot easier. One is hard. 3 is easy. Okay.
All right. 3
so
pieces.
Let's see. So number 1, it's understanding what copywriting is. Okay, so this is the big gripe I have had for the last 10 years. Most copywriting in the last decade has literally followed this formula. It's words on paper that sell. It's words on paper that sell. It's words on paper that sell. No, it's not. Okay, copywriting is so much more than that. Copywriting is, you have to know what converts from the very start to the very end. You've got to know how the product is built. You got to know how to sell that damn thing. You need to know how to market the damn thing. You need to be able to get on the phone with a motherfucking customer and actually sell them the damn thing. You got to also be able to run the company when the CEO is being an asshole and doesn't know what they're doing. You got to put other people in place when they tell you that you're wrong, even though you've done the research. You hold like 50 different jobs as a copywriter. You've also got to tell the graphic designer and the design team how to design stuff. You got to tell the website designer how to not make shit-centered text the entire way through, because it ruins conversions. You've also got to know what words go where, what needs to be designed, how it needs to be. A copywriter's job is a lot bigger than just words on fucking paper. All right, that's the easiest part of our job. The other stuff has to all like work together. It's the reason why I tell people, like, I'm not building a single sales page. I'm building an entire fucking phone start to finish, because when people arrive, you're going to be represented from the moment that you're seen to the moment that you leave. And if you don't represent yourself correctly, you're going to be burning bridges. They don't see that. So this is what I mean. So my first piece of advice, get clear what a copywriter is. That's number one. Number two, why you need them in your business. Look at every big business that is a multi-billion-dollar chain right now. We're talking Nike, we're talking KFC, we're talking even McDonald's at one point as well. Look at even Adidas, Reebok, literally every single brand started off as a direct response company. If you don't believe me, look at how Nike launched. Nike, before they actually had like Michael Jordan and stuff like that, they started running ads in papers as direct response pieces to actually get people to buy shoes from them. It was mail order.
Same with Netflix. Netflix was mail order.
Yeah, it was all mail order. Look at these massive companies. Why do they work? Well, because they understood you got to get someone to buy. Once you get to a certain point, you can switch over to brand, which is once you've done over 10 million a year, then you can lean on your brand a little bit more to do the heavy lifting. But if you combine copywriting and the heavy lifting, your ads are going to be far more productive and profitable. A great example to this that's a direct response ad, but a lot of people don't see the direct response ad, is the old Apple versus Windows ad with Justin Long. That was direct response. If you don't believe me, well, what does it do? It tells you exactly what the problem is on one side and it gives you the solution on the other, and then leaves you up to go buy, because it can't say go buy a MacBook, but it says get a MacBook. Quite simply because it tells you all the advantages of a MacBook. It works wonderfully. So don't think copywriting is dead or it's not going to work. It works for everything. It survived everything over the last couple of 100 million years of like human civilization and population, depending on how old you think the earth is. But we've been there from the beginning, because guys that wanted to sell one thing to another, or women wanted to sell one thing to another, had to be able to do it in a way that communicated effectively. And that's what copywriting is. It's just communication effectively while knowing everything from start to finish to make sure that people are taken care of. So advice number one, know what a copywriter is. I've explained it. Advice number two, quite simply understand that when, so advice number one, know what a copywriter is. What is advice number two? I just forgot. It's literally dropped out of my head.
Everything's direct response.
Yes, everything's direct response. Understand that it's a big thing that you cannot abandon it, because it builds businesses and will get you the capital you need. And knowing how to do it, by the way, also increases the likelihood of how much you'll get paid at valuation when you do sell your company. Side note, investors look at you, if you've ever done door-to-door or copywriting sales, any kind of stuff like that at a direct level, they will actually give you more money for it, because they know that you sold feet to feet. They know that you've actually gone out and tested the product yourself. They know that you're more passionate about it, and thus they feel more safe in putting their money investment into you. So keep that in mind. And number three, which is wonderful, if a person does not have copywriting availability for whatever it is, do not lowball them, because we bring you a shitload of money. Let's be honest. We just do. Don't try and lowball me on my figure. If I'm bringing you a god-ass big-ass piece of pie, you best be giving me some. That's number one. Two, well, part A. Part B from that is quite simple. From a copywriter's perspective, you got to let us run. Don't try and tell us what to do. We know what we're doing, because we're investigating, we're researching. If you got to hold our hand far too much in this, it ain't going to work out for us. You got to let us do what we got to do, because what we're telling you to do, sometimes we'll win, sometimes it'll fail, and most of the times we'll actually try and do the work again to try and make sure it wins, because no one wants to have an L on their record. And the third, number C out of all of this, so part C of point 3, if you will, is quite simply this. When it comes down to understanding your profit margins as a copywriter, exactly what they look for and what they do. If then, actually, forget that, scratch that, that's not a thing. What I was going to say is like part C, 3C, if you will, is quite simple. Yes, we can re-edit this part. It's quite simple. You want to look at it from the perspective of, sometimes a copywriter is not in the moment of writing copy, but they are very good at consulting. And that's what you got to look at. Can they actually consult? Can they show you how to do this? Because the problem with a lot of copywriting courses, if you do decide to take a course, is it's not taught from someone that's actually done the work, understands it, mentored others, and actually taught the entire thing. They've only been around for a short period of time. You want someone that has longevity, has done this, has a name, and actually has notoriety to show you what to do, because there's a lot of situations that they know about that most others don't. My reality used to be, you shouldn't actually talk about how to write, or how to teach how to write sales copy until you've made your client at least $10 million, and it has to be more than 3 clients. Because sometimes you can get lucky and be like, I have a client that's already 10. Yeah, you might have a great client, but the thing is, you got to be able to know how to go through the wins, losses, successes, reclaims, refunds, dealing with a shitty ass client. You got to know how to deal with all of that. And if you're thinking about picking up how to write copy for yourself as a career, because it is a great career, come with a fucking backbone. That's advice to copywriters. Come with a fucking backbone.
I want to go into the storytelling, because that's
yes.
like the
Sorry, I just went off on a rant there.
I love rants. This podcast
Excellent.
is built on rants, so it's fine.
Yeah.
With the art of storytelling, because that's something that's been more and more prevalent
You're welcome.
in copywriting, and thank you for that. And
There is a reason I said you're welcome. I'll explain in a minute.
because you developed a unique approach to with storytelling, blending the direct response with the narrative techniques.
Mm.
How can you explain how this approach is different from traditional copywriting
Yes. Oh my God.
versus
Okay.
the way you do it?
Okay, so there's three types of copy. There's two originally. There's brand and there's direct response. Brand is very much like, hey, look, we're in this room. Look at this light bulb. Yay. No actual call to action. It's just like it's a backdrop thing. Direct response is kind of the equivalent of grabbing you by the throat, throwing you against the wall, holding you by the throat, saying, hey, here's the reasons why you need to give me money, motherfucker, because these are all the reasons why. Otherwise, I'm going to stab you. In fact, I've already stabbed you. I'm going to twist the knife and you got to pull it, like you got to pay me to pull it out. It's very in your face. It's a bit of a turn off, let's be honest. The third path is blending the two together. And the reason we have to blend the two together is because of the advent of social media. See, social media has made it so who you are matters more than what you can do. Because in the past, you had to introduce who you were to a degree. Hi, my name is James Smith. I'm the descendant of so-and-so Smith Company, blah, 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 blah. My grandfather basically told me this. Now it becomes a story about the grandfather and his discovery, and James Smith doesn't mean shit. His name is on the front and the end, and that's basically it. No, people need to know who you are today. If you don't see this, try telling me, like, if you don't, tell me who your favorite influencer's backstory and what their history is, and I guarantee you probably know it.
Yeah,
but then tell me what
Beast, like just like
yeah, Mr. Beast, you know shit. But at the same time, if you're a fan of that person also understands the selling principles, they understand the techniques, they're now more effective. So the reality is when you blend the two together, the brand is all the storytelling. Here's who I am. Here's why you need to know me. A little bit of the floweriness of what it is. And then you got to have the direct response side that gets them to the point, that tells them exactly what needs to happen, what steps need to go through, how they need to be talked to, how they need to buy, what comes next, what processes happen, and how it all merges together. That is all inside what we call the story selling ideation. And again, I didn't come up with story selling. Someone else did. It's a great term. But I was one of the people that actually led the idea towards this about 10, 11 years ago, along with a few other great people like Kevin Rogers, Kylie Slavic, Ryan Schwartz, and a bunch of other people. They literally were pioneering this kind of thing where we talk about different ways of telling the story correctly in a way that bonds it with the audience and allows them to come on a journey with us that ultimately reaches a point of sale. And a lot of people don't do that. And now they do, but they do it kind of terribly because they use unethical stories to do so. Like, I slipped in front of my kid and I ripped my jeans and they called me fat. And this is the reason why I had to go to Peru to look at this like weird thing in the Amazon that ended up bringing me a health benefit. And now I've lost 42 pounds. Yay. It's complete bullshit.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting seeing those stories that kind of aren't congruent. There's this like incongruency with it, and reading yours and taking your course, the greatest email sequence, was it?
The welcome sequence, yeah.
The greatest welcome sequence. Yeah. Was, now that I got to email lists, I'm not criticizing, I'm looking at them and saying, okay, what are they missing? How can this be improved? And I'm far from a copywriter. I have my copywriting.
But you can see it.
I start to see it, and I love being able to see it because it's, okay, this is a person that either has taken a copywriter or has a copywriter on their team, or if it's themselves doing it. And it's great because you in your course, you break it down so simplistically and allows non-copywriters to actually feel like they're a copywriter, because you're telling them exactly what needs to be done without doing all the huge amount of work. There's still work. It's still work because you have to think a bit outside, but the work level is easier. It's like, instead of lifting this rock by my hands, I have a pulley now, and the pulley's doing most of the work. And I love it. I want to touch on go ahead. Sorry.
So I was going to say, before we jump into that, because it is to do with the course in a second, it's funny because I had the same conversation with a really good business owner just this afternoon. And what I said to them was, quite simply, this is the thing that's missing in a lot of courses. especially when it's something like a skill like this to teach and share it and show it to people, the teacher often forgets how to equip the student with the glasses to see what they're looking at. They don't change the perspective or the perception. What they say is like, you see this email works because of these reasons that are so like obvious to me but unobvious to you, and you're like, yeah, but why did you put that? Why is that a question mark, not an exclamation mark, and why is that an ellipsis, and why does it drop down once? There's so many questions that don't get answered. Whereas if you shift the perspective of the person that you're showing anything to, and this is in any course, you will have a high completion rate, and you'll have people like Phil basically giving you huge props about like something that you do.
It's true. And I want to talk on this because obviously
Yeah.
using the word the greatest is a
Yeah.
little technique. It's kind of like, SEOing and taking care of all these little things and making yourself bigger. And you're launching the podcast, the greatest business podcast ever. And he just went dark, ladies and gentlemen. We are
Oh
completely
yes, I did. That's right. I went full on dark mode there. Sorry, my camera decided to like shut me off. It was like the greatest what? No.
No. So yes, what can we expect in the content, the guest appearances? How will this differ from other entrepreneurial based podcasts out there?
Okay, so this is quite interesting. So I've done this a little bit different than all my peers put together. Like, and I mean that in the kindest way, but there is literally no one that is doing it the way that I'm planning on doing it. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but what I will say is the frequency is going to be slightly different. And you and I will have a little chat about this afterwards. So the frequency is going to be a little bit different, but what you guys can expect is there's going to be it's going to be 90-minute interviews. There's going to be a 90-minute section every single week where we have a guest expert that I vetted that you guys would probably know of, I've actually worked with, some way, shape, or form, I've got them on the show. But the questions they're going to get are not the questions that you expect to hear from any other podcaster. Like, yes, I want to find out a little bit about them, but the reality is I'm going to ask them questions that are going to be going a little bit deeper than you can imagine. And if you want a taste of this while I record these shows, my old podcast, Adil, Amarsi Unplugged, is still on Spotify. You can listen to how I interview my people there. And you'll be like, holy crap, what? Yeah, I get people to give up a lot more information, share more freely, and be more accessible whenever we do those. So that's like the first way. The second is I'm also doing a 20-minute show every single week as well, up to 20 minutes every single week, where it's on a Monday, where I'm just going to go through the mailbag. So if you have questions, you can mail in. If you want to pick up some stuff that I've actually talked about, then it's all going to be there. And it's only going to be 20 minutes long. And the biggest difference between the two, the old podcast and this one's actually video based. I actually have my studio set up right now. As you can see, we're still setting it up. So I got to get the lighting correctly in here. But the reality is, yeah, it's going to be so different than anything else that you hear on the marketplace today. It's not going to be boring. It's going to be a lot of fun. And they're going to give you a lot more things to actually walk away from. That's the key thing. You're going to walk away with like being like, holy shit, I have action steps now. I know what to do. It's just not ethereal enough in my head. It's now like I have a concrete plan.
I love it. Oh, I'm so excited. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you after about the podcast, getting some behind the scenes info.
Oh, yeah.
The joys of being the podcast mogul. I get to do that.
Yes.
I want to know, you've been probably investing in yourself for the last at least 17 years, being both a copywriter, going into the business, becoming a business mogul. Now you're touching in the podcast mogul space, and I'm a little concerned that you're going to take over my spot, but I'm not too worried.
Not in the slightest, brother. Not in the slightest. Team up on that one.
All right, good. I'm okay with the team up. But I want to know, like, what has been your most valuable investment that you made in yourself in both the terms of time and resources? And how has this shaped you as an entrepreneur?
Oh, man, there's so many answers to that. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 4.
Okay.
3. No, let's go 3. Three monumental ones, because they're different ages, different Adils, different ages, right? Adil version 1 when I was 18. The best investment that I had ever made when I was about 20 years old was in books, more than anything else. For those 2 years, was in books. And I can reel off, like, all you can do is all you can do, but all you can do is enough by, I can't remember his name, but the dude actually built a massive direct sales company in the US. I think his name is A.L. Williams or A.J. Williams, something like that. You guys can look him up. That was a great book to read. Same with anything by Joe Sugarman. I read Triggers when I was younger, as well as Success Forces by him. So these are copywriting books, but also books on self-development, understanding stuff, the magic of thinking big, how to win friends and influence people, how to start living and stop worrying. Those are the kind of books I read when I was in those years. So those are the best investments. I've given you like $100 worth of books there.
Those are amazing books. You rattled off.
Every single one of them was incredibly powerful to me for one thing or another. The Alchemist as well was also on that list. So that was like one of the best investments I made. Anything by Tony Robbins. I know people give Tony Robbins a lot of shit, but I actually love Tony Robbins and stuff. Like Personal Power 2 is still one of my favorite programs to ever go through. Later on in life, 28-year-old Adil, the best investment I made there was I had a client who had a revolutionary system to actually restore your mind, kind of like a factory reset, if you will. I was going through some stuff in my life. At this point, people thought, like the doctors thought I had bipolar disorder and I was, all over the place, but the reality, it turns out I was just autistic with ADHD and undiagnosed at the time. Way more difference and way better understanding of what it is. But I paid to go away and do they came in 3 parts. It's kind of like this thing where you just try and undo your, as he calls them, your emotional cancers. Shout out to Gregory Baker, great guy. Over the course of 4 days, my body tried to kill me. And pretty much you're going to find this, at least in the last 2, like 2 and 3. I almost die in quite a few of these stories, so that's quite fun. But this time I almost did because I got strep throat, and this version of strep throat killed 16 people in the small city that I was in at the time after I left. I went back to London. But yeah, 16 people that have strep throat and apparently just wiped you out because I did my 4-day deep dive self-transformation one-on-one with Gregory with strep throat. It completely broke me. And the thing was, it reconnected me to my emotions for the first time ever, because the one criticism I got from nearly everyone in my life at the time was that I'm a very emotional person once you get to know me. I'm a very emotional writer, but I'm an absolutely dead person if you don't know me. Like nothing seemingly affected who I was. It did internally, just the external was like, you can tell me I got there. Yeah, constantly. The mask was constantly on because it needed to protect me. And then the third was only about 2 months ago. 3 months ago, actually, almost a day. Hold on, what is the date? Yeah, 3 months to the day. I landed in Saudi Arabia. I went on my pilgrimage. And also very much like this, I almost died, except for this time it was from dehydration. There's a photo of me smiling with an IV in my arm. So like everyone was like, "Why are you smiling?" So I had to reassure everyone I was alive. So I had to like send them a happy photo. This is basically a rule of it, right? A picture speaks 1,000 words. If I still like, "Oh, no, we look glum and stuff," they're like, "Holy crap, what's wrong with them?" I was like, "No, I'm gonna smile. It'll be fine. See what happens, right?" No, that was one of the most absolutely incredible turnarounds in my life, more than anything else. And I'll explain just very quickly how they all impacted. So the first one, obviously, I started learning how to read books. I understood exactly what business was. I understand how like the mind works to the degree that it does. And the books that I gave you guys are just incredible, and resources to read. The second, that reconnected to me to my emotions, to actually help me understand how to process feelings, how to become a better human, not just man, just a better human overall. Especially in understanding how people think, feel, how they actually develop what they need to do. And a lot of the stuff that we went into actually correlates a lot with the stuff that people are going through in business. It actually made me more empathic and sympathetic towards them, and allow them to actually build a deeper connection with me, which is incredible. And the last one was 30 days away from my laptop and not working, and being out in a very spiritual, religious place for me, opened me up in such an incredible way that gave me more how do I put it? More confidence in what I was planning on doing and how I needed to do it. And again, some people can read like my brand, The Greatest, is a little egotistical and whatever it is. Bring it on. You'll see that the funniest part of all of it is, as you guys are getting to know me, this is just me 100% of the time.
I can confirm. The greatest. I can confirm he's like this 100%.
Yeah.
Camera
I'm a goofball,
on, camera off.
Just a goofball all the time. Because I don't like masking. That's my thing. After I found out about the whole ADHD diagnosis thing and the autism thing, I stopped masking. I stopped caring so much about like what people care about me. I'm like, look, at the end of the day, I'm me. If you meet me in a bar, if you meet me on the street, if you meet me in a plane, if you meet me anywhere and you say hello to me, you're most likely going to get a hello back. Like 90% of the time you will. 10% of the time I'm pissed off and don't want to talk to anyone because I'm going through like a internal thing. At that point, I'll say, hi, I'd love to talk to you, but not right now. Let's talk later, is what you'll probably get.
You still get a hi, but it's a very short
Yes.
hi.
Yes.
I'm having so much fun talking with you, Dale. Always talking with
Of
a
course,
dentist.
brother, please. I'm good with this. We got time. We got time.
I know we got time. I do. I don't know where
I do this to him all the time. I do this to you all the time.
It's true. It's annoying that you do this. We're gonna touch we'll go before the penultimate question here. Pardon me. You're known for rapid transformation, turning around businesses, helping them increase their revenue and make their lives a little easier.
And profitability.
And profitability, of course.
Yeah.
What is it? What are the first steps you take when you're assessing a new client to see how you can take what they already have and just put it in essence on steroids, bump it up to the next level?
Do they have a good offer? Is it a legit offer? Like, is it actually, holy shit, your shit actually works? Like, your stuff is actually cool. I like this. This is really interesting. More people should know about this. The moment I hit the more people should know about this button in my head, the more I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So you have a good offer. That's number one. Number two, are you an ethical person? That's where the next step comes in, because unethical people can develop good things, but they're doing it for the wrong reasons. And at that point, there's nothing to safeguard them watering down a good product to make more money. And I don't want to be a part of that. And the third is quite simple, is I look at it and go, do you have the potential to grow? Because I'm always looking at the business owner more than the business. Because the business can grow under anyone's tutelage. Anyone can do that. But like the reality is, if the wrong leader is in front of the right business, it can do a lot more damage. If the right leader is in front of the right business with a bad offer and they're willing to change it, guess what? That motherfucker's going to fly off the shelf. Sorry, excuse my language, but it's true. It's literally going to fly off the shelf. And that's what I look at, is I go, okay, if you have an existing business that has customers, you sold this thing before, it's a good product, people like it, but the thing that you're selling at, the mechanism, the angle that you're selling at is wrong, you're not connecting with them deeply. How you, like, let's say, for instance, give me an industry, any industry will, everyone, you get a little fun little review exclusive thing with Phil where you're going to see me literally do what I do on steroids all the time. So let's go. Let's make up a product dentist. Or one that's existing.
Dentist. We'll go with a dentist.
What's their biggest problem? Clients
coming in the door.
Okay, they don't have enough clients coming in through the door. Let's just say that they have, how much competition do they have in the city they're in? There's another two
other dentists.
Wonderful. So there's two other dentists that are kicking the shit out of him or her. Okay, so let's just say, is it a man or a woman that owns this dentistry? Because this will make a big difference.
Let's go with
wonderful. Okay, excellent. So what I'd say with a woman is, if you're, and by the way, this sounds like, oh, why would that make a difference? It makes the biggest difference in what you can get away with. Okay, I can't actually suggest like, hey, make your place feel more like a spa and a zen place to actually go that's relaxing with people in a state of calm and relaxation. As a guy, because most of my guy clients will not be okay with this. Women clients will understand. So let's say it's a woman. She's basically against two other dudes that have like, they're kicking the crap out of her in this town, wherever it is, or this area of what it is. And they need to get customers through the door. Well, the reality is I look at exactly what their waiting room looks like. If their waiting room, it doesn't need a lot of money. It really doesn't need a lot of money. Their waiting room just needs to have comfort seats. Don't plaster like, have you had a check-in lately? Have you done this? Look at this disgusting little mouth. Get rid of that shit. No one wants to see that. Give them something appeasing to look at. Make them want to come to the dentist. That's the big thing people forget. You want to make people come to these things. And the way that you do it is by having a place that feels welcoming, that doesn't just feel like you're there for, you're going to feel pain because no one likes the dentist, realistically. So what I would do is I'd help them just basically paint the walls white, if you will. Put in some, like, if you've got carpeted floors, put in some like laminate. If you've got like wood floors, even better. That just looks good. Get some seating in there, just like some comfortable seating. put on some like a good show or something like that. Meaning, if there's a TV in there, put like like fucking get Netflix in there and just stream Netflix stuff that's just like PG friendly and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do that. You can get away with it. Or something along those lines. Just put something on there that entertains people. Actually, information brochures and stuff like that. Put up testimonials of people just being so happy. Put a wall up of kids' art that are actually there right now and get them to do so. And then basically, as soon as someone has basically done through their dentistry appointment, get them to book the next one right then and there. Don't wait for them to go home. We'll get into you in 3 days. No. When are you available? Look at your calendar right now. We need to book this in today, which a lot of dentistry practices do finally use, which is nice. But like, I would still do this. And then what I would do is I'd have an upsell ladder here. I'd put a referral system there. Who do you know that's nearby that needs to come see me that you would actually recommend it? What about your mom? Your mom lives like 60 minutes in the other direction. Well, guess what? Can we get her to come here? Because people will go out to a good dentist. And again, this is just all the stuff that's external. You look at it from the advertising standpoint, you'd basically shoot an inside of the actual dentistry and put it online with like, hey, if you want like a really professional health clean dentist that makes you feel comfortable and almost puts you to a state of relaxation as you come in, this is the place to go. And people automatically assume that, especially when as a woman you can get away with actually being in the video, welcoming patients, sitting down with like kids and stuff like that, whatever it is, just as a one-day promo. Do as many of those as you can and then run ads to them. Because the perception is that you're basically a dentist that greets people. You're a dentist that's kind, that's nice, that looks after them. Get photos and videos of you inside doing someone's dental work and how much they're laughing. Even if it's like a routine cavity they're getting filled in, or like I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, cleaning or something like that. Just get them, just something stupid like that allows people to actually see the humanization of you and how that experience is not going to be painful for them. Because if they can mentally see that this is no longer painful, they'll go for it. The biggest issue is that it's painful in the mind of people because they remember when they were kids. Let me ask you, if I said to you, go to a dentist today, how quickly are you going to say yes, or are you going to put it off? Because like, I don't want to go, because there's an embarrassment factor as well. It's like, I don't want you to look inside my mouth because it'll tell you my eating habits and other habits. And I don't want to feel judged.
So I have no problem going to the dentist because I went to an orthodontist for 10 years. So for me, it's like, it's way less painful.
Yeah. For you, it's less painful. But like, before you went for the first time, before you went to see an orthodontist for 10 years.
Yeah, no. It's not. Everything you're saying is like, if I went in, I saw this, I would go to a place where I felt relaxed. That is like just the advice you gave resonated with me. And I have no fear of going to a dentist. I have now with that, I want to go to the dentist more often.
Yeah.
If my dentist was like that. So yeah, I love how you.
I mean, there's a few other elements I'd look at. I'd look at hiring the right staff in there. I'd make sure that the right people. If you can't get new staff, I'd put the staff through a training on like courtesy and selling.
Yeah.
Because the reality is a bad staff member can cost you a patient.
Oh yeah, it costs you many patients. Adil, we're coming to the end, which I hate because I wish we could have 80 hours of just pulling your brain. But we're going to leave that for the greatest business podcast ever. So move people there. The last question I have is, I have your 10-year-old self right beside me, won't stop talking, which is really weird. It seems to be a trait you never lost, Adil. But what's one piece of advice that you would love to be able to hand back to your 10-year-old self?
Oh, this is going to be hard. One piece of advice. Okay, just one piece of advice I can hand to my 10-year-old self. It'll be a paragraph I give him. Just be like, if it, of course it'll be a paragraph. I can't just tell him one word and that's it. But the piece of advice would be simple. It would be, make other people laugh and you'll never feel like you're alone. Love as openly and freely as you can, even if you're hurt, because love feels better than pain. And the third would definitely be never stop working out. Like, that's the one I would give. I was like, never stop working out. Because I was a butterball at 10 years old. But like at 12, 13, I got in shape. I was like, once you get in shape, don't stop being in shape. Life sucks when you're out of shape.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But those are the things, because like one of the things I don't really talk about as well is like if you'd ask me what I tell 12-year-old self, I'd just tell them you're on the right path, because 12-year-old me figured out at that age that if I can make one person laugh a day, it made me happy. So that's my goal every day, is to make one person laugh.
I love that. I love that. Adil, I'm going to jump off stage here. Let my audience know where they can connect with you, how they can listen to your podcast, get your courses, all that fun stuff. The floor, sir, is yours.
Okay, wonderful. So, guys, if you want to follow me on social media and actually get me to respond to you, head on over to instagram.com/Adil Amarsi. That's ADILAMARSI. You'll find me. I'm the only one on there with my name, which is wonderful. If you want to actually hear my podcast, again, go on Spotify, type in Adil Amarsi Unplugged for the old episodes. And if you, by the time you're seeing this, go on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even YouTube at that point, and just type in the greatest business podcast ever, and you'll see my videos, my face, and my interviews start coming up, which will be quite fun. And finally, if you want to pick up any of the courses, become a better copywriter for your own business, to actually take it as a career, to build something out there, head on over to Head on over to greatestcopywriteralive.com, so many domains, and just basically look through what's there. Join my mailing list for my opt-in template, which is incredible, and then basically go through the courses, because there's the encyclopedia copy where you get everything for one annual low fee, or you can pick up all of them separately for whatever you need and basically swipe and deploy them ready to go. So it's up to you, guys. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing you there.
Adil, thank you so much. It was a pleasure chatting with you, catching up with you again after your survival of your trek. I'm glad you're still alive.
Thank you.
And now he's put the coat back on because he's going to be
That's right.
pimping all over the world with it. But Adil, again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. And guys, speak to you soon.
I love it. To my audience, all the show notes will have the links to Adil's products, the greatest copywriter, the greatest intro sequence, the greatest business podcast, all the greats will be down there. I want to thank you so much for listening, and remember to always invest in yourself.